So I got a couple things I wanted to talk about today. One, Xbox, Microsoft, they announced that the Xbox 360 store will close July 2024. It's right around the corner, less than a year away. And some people, I don't know, I've seen a few people freaking out, some people not understanding what's going on, some people not really giving a crap, and to each their own, really. But I mean, to me, it's not the end of the world. Not quite yet, anyway. Not when it comes to video games or anything else. But they mentioned here in November of this year will mark 18 years since the 360 launched. Man, I love the 360. I got one like right when it came out, but then I slightly was disappointed and got rid of it. I sold it to a friend. It wound up having the red ring of death later on. So it was kind of like, oh, good thing I didn't hold on to it. It's somebody else's problem, I guess. But I mean, it didn't happen for a while. I had other 360s after that, but I remember the a generation defining console. The defining moment for the 360 for me was Gears of War. My friend that bought that system for me, he bought Gears of War. I seen the game. I was like, holy crap, I got to go get me another 360. The hell, can I have mine back? No, this is amazing. So, I was in it to win it with the 360 and the PS3 at the time. But yeah, it's been a while, man. It's crazy how time flies, right? But they're not saying like, hey, the 360 is just disappearing off of the face of the earth type of thing. It's just like, hey, the store on the 360, the marketplace for people who are still grasping onto the 360 and cruising through that store to buy games, it's no longer going to be available. July 29th, 2024, Xbox will stop supporting the ability to purchase new games, DLC, and other entertainment from the 360 store and the 360 marketplace online. And then the Microsoft Movies TV's app will no longer function on the 360. But between now and July, you can continue purchasing stuff to your heart's content. It's kind of like, when the Wii U 3DS like announcement was going on, the stores are closing down. There was that rush to buy games. I don't know how many people are going to be rushing to buy games on their 360. But the games that are backwards compatible, really, this is I wouldn't even say it's a push because, I mean, I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen any numbers, but I'd have to imagine the amount of people who still have an Xbox 360 and are regularly purchasing games and DLC is very tiny. It's got to be a very small percent. There's been two other lines of consoles after that, right? The Xbox One and the Xbox Series and, iterations in between type of thing. So I would imagine there's not a lot. I want to say it's a push to like, hey, there's all these backwards compatible 360 games that you could still buy and play even after that date on the Series S and X. Like, that's kind of a given. Like, yeah, they'd rather you buy the newer system. And if you want to continue playing 360 games, buy them there because you'll still be able to as long as the publishers leave games up and, stuff like that, right? But, I mean, it's kind of a given, but I don't think that's really the point. It's just like, keeping those things alive for a very small percentage of people probably doesn't make sense financially and for many other reasons. But they go on talking about all that. Can I still play my 360 games? Of course you can. If you purchased them digitally or you have a physical disc, you could still play. What about multiplayer games? Can I still play with my friends? Yes, even after July 2024, you'll still be able to play games, connect with friends through multiplayer on the games you purchased, as long as the publisher still supports the online servers. You could still save your game's progress to the cloud. And if you choose to continue any of those available games on Xbox One or Series XX, those cloud saves will transfer over. And then they just talk about like, hey, those backwards compatible games that are available will still be available on the Series S and X. So I don't think it's like the end of the world with any of this. It just kind of, well, I'm like out of focus here. It kind of makes sense to me, like that this happens. It's gonna happen. Not really worth like getting into a big uproar over. It's just, yeah, these companies, they're gonna shut these things down. The digital world that we live in, as long as you can retain access to the things that you buy, that's what matters to me. I understand, like, hey, like when the Wii U was closed down, there was people upset about it, but you weren't buying shit before then, right? So it's bound to happen. This kind of leads into, I know this is an article or a topic of discussion that's been talked about a while ago, like a month ago. A lot of people were talking about this, the 87% missing. the disappearance of classic video games. Kind of goes with everything, a little bit with what we're talking about now as well. This is a topic I kind of struggle with. I see a lot of discussion out there with game preservation, and a lot of times it does seem disingenuous or, twisted in a way, because a lot of times it's not about the historical importance. It's about access, being able to continue playing these games. And you know what? It's a selfish cause, but I'm not knocking anybody. Just let's be honest with ourselves. I'm for game preservation because I'm selfish. I want access, right? But let's get into this article real quick. It's not very long. I'm not going to read everything. But these guys, they did a study, and it's exactly that. The commercial availability of these classic games. Not that 87% of classic games are critically endangered. They are not. It's just that they're not commercially sold. That's the way it works. Company makes something for profit. When it's not viable anymore, they no longer sell it. If they don't see a reason or the worth in re-releasing it, they don't do it. It's just the way it is, right? But it's not that they're critically endangered. It's just that the way to go about access, yeah, there's that gray area. Go to the Internet Archive, find all the Super Nintendo games you want, NES, every console. It's there, right? And this is what they talk about. Like 9 and 10 games, the only options are seek out the original hardware and games, which that's fine for some people, but can be expensive. Visit a library that can only demonstrate things, type of deal, or piracy. And I'm all for that third option there. If it's not commercially available, I'm selfish. I want to play it. I'm going to seek it out. Just the way it goes. I don't see the same kind of uproar. There's that side where it's, hey, preservation for access, preservation for historical means, and there can be crossover between the two. But I don't see the same uproar with other things. Collectibles as far as, statues that have been produced, toys from back in the day, the 70s, 80s, 90s, designer clothing, shoes. I don't see people like, hey, I had access to it then. Maybe I owned it then. I got rid of it. I don't have it anymore. I should have access to it now. You may argue, well, it's not the same thing. It's not art. In some people's eyes, it is. It is art. The toys, the collectibles, things that were sold for profit that are no longer sold for profit. What are the options to get it? There are no options. Bootlegs, maybe? I don't know. But to get the original, it's just, that's the way things go. I don't see the same kind of argument with that stuff. And I get it. This is interactive entertainment. So, there's that side of it as well. But what it really boils down to is capitalism. These companies, they're not going to just always produce that one thing or that series of things. They're going to move on no matter what it is. And people, they just want to maintain that access to the older stuff. And these numbers can be misleading in that regard because the stuff is out there, just not in the way they want it to be, I guess, where it's just, hey, there's no legal ramifications behind it. And I get it. I'm all for that kind of stuff. But I think really, yeah, the 87% critically endangered, it's kind of a strange thing to throw out there that way because just they're not commercially available. I think it's more of an issue with more recent stuff, delistings of digital-only games that may have never been downloaded or backed up or the companies held on to them. Those are things that could be critically endangered. But it's just an interesting topic of discussion. I know, maybe with some of the things I've said, people won't see it the same way as I do, and that's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world, really isn't. But I do want to hear what you guys got to say, so thanks for watching. Drop your comments down below. Bye.